Yeah.
Better. All right. Also need to tie my hair up because it looks ridiculous.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Camera. Okay.
That's something. I feel like my camera's not centered. That's why it's Okay, I'll look at the top left-hand corner.
There we go. Can you hear me? Hello? There we go.
So you all are recording something.
How's that?
This is fine.
More light?
Should I switch that light from the right?
There are lights everywhere.
The frame is okay? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I audible?
Is that alright? Check. 1, 2, 3. Good to go.
So, is Raunak ready or क्या हो रहा है?
Hi, this is Ian Bishop.
Hi, this is Sanjay Manjrekar.
Hi, this is Dale Steyn.
Hi, this is Daniel Vettori.
Hi, this is Gautam Gambhir.
Hi, this is Ajit Agarkar.
Hi, this is Akash Chopra.
Hi, I'm Deep Dasgupta.
Catch me on
ESPN Quick Info.
T20 Time Out.
T20 Time Out.
All cricket.
No noise.
All cricket.
No noise.
All cricket.
No noise.
All Cricket.
No noise.
Time, finally, for those 2 months of all cricket and no noise on ESPN Cricket Info T20 Time Out, powered by Intel. 5 months since we last had a taste of the IPL. We've seen some astonishing international cricket in those 5 months, and back we are for cricket's finest carnival. It's an absolute full house. The hair is tied, the frame is set, and Raunak is also ready. So it's time to say hello to Dale Steyn, Daniel Vettori, and Sanjay Manjrekar. My word, what a panel we've got to kick things off. Let me first and foremost say hello to Daniel Vettori. You couldn't get enough of this IPL. He's willing to sacrifice all his hours of sleep at 1 a.m. in Auckland only to talk cricket with us. Daniel, welcome.
I missed you that much.
And Sanjay, if you could be kind enough to do the honors. Dale Steyn has been given many caps in his glorious career, not just for the Proteas, for Deccan Chargers, for Sunrisers, for RCB. But let's present Dale Steyn the IPL analyst cap on T20 Timeout. And as ESPN Cricket Info's most capped analyst, may I request you to do the honors and welcome Dale onto our coverage.
Dale, I welcomed you off air as well. Now this is the official on-air welcome. So great to have you with us. And I sent a message to Raunak quietly saying, let's have more of Dale Steyn tonight and less of Sanjay Manjrekar and more of Dan Vettori.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm looking forward to the next 2 months. Do you hear me? Am I there?
Yeah.
My internet seems to be as infected as I am. I'm back, it seems. Did you present the cap appropriately, Mr. Manjrekar, to Dale Steyn?
Yes, I did. And the moment people came to know about it, that he's going to be part of our panel, typically, a lot of strain on the
Yes.
what is the broadband and
Yeah.
what is the connector between
The
people.
internet went crazy, right? Too much traffic, and therefore the host's link crashed somehow. So Dale Steyn's first wicket on this coverage is mine. But let's welcome Dale. nice and officially all set for this, Dale. I think this is, should I call this the less challenging or the more challenging job? Would you rather be bowling in the IPL or would you rather be answering questions on it?
Look, to be honest with you, I'd probably rather be bowling. I've just never really been on the other side of it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this challenge. I'm actually really excited to not have the heat of having to win games for a team on my shoulders for once and able to talk about it.
Yeah, man, if we talk about the weight of expectation, you can go no further than Royal Challengers Bangalore. Dan Vettori knows that, Dale Steyn knows that, and they're in action. What a grandstand fixture to kick us off for IPL 2021. India's captain and their limited overs vice captain up against each other at MS Dhoni's solid fortress at the Chepauk. There are no home games in this year's IPL for the very first time since it's being played in India. But these teams have gotten used to neutral grounds after the UAE expedition last time round. So Mumbai against Bangalore is where our focus lies. The toss will be in just under 7 minutes from now. Before we do get there, though, I'd love to hear from all of you as to what your expectations are from this year's IPL. It's all in this uncertainty of a bubble. Of course, the situation in the country itself is delicate. But on the cricketing front, what can we expect this year, this unique year with no home ground? Sanjay?
I expect better pitches because this is the first time you'll be playing, for example, in Chennai without CSK playing in it, or without India playing there. So sometimes, get pitches as per the needs of the home team. So I expect pitches all over to be better. And that's one of the predictions I've made on this IPL, is that you'll see more runs being scored because there isn't that much pressure on the curator to create a surface that will suit, the team that he obviously supports in his heart.
Dale, you played for RCB 5 months back. We're not even going to say last year, because normally players have a year in between two IPLs. They have a lot of cricket to zone out and zone in. Now, all of a sudden, imagine if you were still playing right now, would that change anything? The fact that you've had to get back into IPL mode in a span of less than 6 months, which none of these guys have ever done before?
No, I think the guys will be quite excited about it. Especially having that first bubble experience out of the way, and now knowing what it feels like, knowing what training feels like, having to go maybe a couple of days without training. I'm sure RCB would have also, all the franchises really would have worked out how to ease those teething problems that they had when faced with this COVID situation, So I think this one's going to be run a lot more smoother. The players are going to be a lot happier, and you're probably going to see from players.
All right, so we've got better pitches, maybe more of a comfort zone for players given they're used to these bubbles. Dan, what can we expect from this year's IPL?
Well, I think to back up those 2 points, I think the groundsmen are excited that they don't have the pressure from captains, coaches, franchises to produce a certain type of wicket. So I think Sanjay's spot on that we could see some very good wickets, some high run scoring, and a change of philosophy at certain venues. And then to back up what Dale said around the bubble and people getting used to it, I think the other thing is the players who are coming into the back end of maybe 6, 7, 8 months of bubble life. I think first time around the IPL, everyone was so excited to get back into cricket that they were willing to sacrifice any personal liberties. They may not be so willing this time around. So I think the international cricketers who have played a full summer or a Southern Hemisphere summer in a bubble, and now they're going to back it up again in an IPL bubble. Will be fascinating to see the guys that can actually maintain their performance, because it is incredibly difficult by all accounts being involved in that.
Yeah, so as the only man who's been captain and coach, may I ask you now how often you had a word with the curator of the Chinnaswamy to prepare a pitch that suited RCB, whatever that meant, because the nature of that pitch didn't change much from what we were watching.
It was always through a conduit. It wasn't me directly.
Okay, try and absolve yourself of this. Okay, I'll take that for now. But let's try and just sort of recap as we fast approach the toss for this first game. Last year's IPL, it was about one team just being head and shoulders of the other. That's the Mumbai Indians. They go into this tournament as well as firm favourites. That points table perhaps doesn't even reflect how dominant they were, especially come the playoffs. Delhi didn't come close even in the 2 attempts that they had in the playoffs last year. They've won more titles than anyone else as Rohit Sharma's side, and they do start pretty much as favourites. If we just look back at last year's run getters, wicket takers, it also seemed to be an IPL of fast bowlers. We saw the likes of Rabada, Raunak Kapoor, all doing well in the UAE. Rahul, Shikhar Dhawan, familiar faces, familiar names on the orange cap lists, and David Warner was there. Ishan Kishan was nice to see on that list. Also ended as the highest 6-hitter of the tournament. And as far as the bowlers go, Rabada ended up with the purple cap, and it was an excellent first appearance for the Capitals for Raunak Kapoor. Both won't be available tomorrow, but Jasprit Bumrah, Trent bowled. Lots of pace domination. Dale, can we expect things to change now that you're coming from the UAE to India? Will we again see pacers have that sort of impact, or is that one thing to look out for? Maybe what worked in the UAE may not work here?
Yeah, I think you've said it right there. It doesn't often work the same, and it's also always difficult to back up a season where you had a great season the year before. I'm interested to see how KG goes, and especially how Anrich goes. Given that last year was his first IPL, and now he's got to back it up again this year. 2 opening bowlers for Delhi, although they're not playing today. I'm interested to see how they go this year, and then just different venues. Different pitches, a whole new game playing in India. So whether fast bowling is going to be as effective this year, we're yet to tell. Once the games start going, we can see what the pitches are going to be like and how they're going to play.
Sanjay, we've got a World Cup coming up later this year in these parts of the world. How much of that is something to keep an eye out as a bit of a subplot in this IPL? Maybe not for all the countries, but certainly for India, with there being so much debate and discussion on who can finally make that 20, 30, whatever the number is, probables list for the World Cup.
I remember, Raunak, us having a chat before the last IPL, and Gautam Gambhir made the point about Delhi Capitals, that they had a lot of players who were on the threshold of playing for India, wanted to make a strong claim for that playing 11 in that national teams. And maybe that would have some kind of an effect or, bearing on how Delhi Capitals young batsmen would play. And somewhere we saw that, playing out in the actual IPL. But this time around, I think there will be some pressure on some players. But all those fringe players that we talked about last season, especially the Indian players that I'm talking about, all of them have, made it and have had a great run, even at the national level, international level. So I think you'll see less of that kind of, mindset and pressure in this IPL.
All right, interesting. We did see spin not play as big a role as we thought it would in the last IPL. Then we thought wickets in the UAE will slow down, but whatever the reasons, it didn't seem to translate into a lot of big points or big numbers for spinners. Back in India, all that changes?
Well, I think it's once again the quality of the wickets. And I think if you look at this game tonight, Mumbai and RCB turning up to Chepauk, normally it's about turning up to a spinning wicket, facing Dhoni and CSK and all the pressure that comes with that. I think both teams will come in there with a much more positive frame of mind, because they'll be able to look at a wicket without that hanging over them. So I think it will be about the captains and the coaches who can read those wickets, and whether or how you utilise spinners. And I know there's been talk already about trying to fit 3 spinners into a potential T20 lineup. I think majority of the time teams will rely on those 2 spinners and then a part-timer. And that's where RCB, I suppose, with Sundar, Chahal, and now with Glenn Maxwell in the team, they can look to make the most of those combinations.
All right. The coin has gone up for the very first time in this year's IPL, and we'll give you confirmation of team news and news from the toss. And it looks like Virat Kohli's wretched luck with the tosses for international cricket, Sanjay, seems to have just faded a little. He seems to have won his first toss as captain of RCB. I'll just wait for confirmation on that, but he'd be very relieved. Maybe it's not the coins in the international games that he wants, but RCB seem to have won the toss. Good on Kohli to at least get that bit right.
Yeah, I mean, he lost 7 in a row or something like that. It was ridiculous how many tosses he was losing. But fortunately, winning games, which was, one of the things that we talked about as to how Virat Kohli, despite not having the advantage of winning tosses, and especially, in conditions where dew comes into play a lot. And this is also one of those occasions when we'll have a 7:30 p.m. start in an Indian IPL, because normally you would start at 8 p.m. And that's why I feel that the team, that will be bowling first will have a slight advantage. They'll have that 30 minutes of a dry sort of window for them to make a mark. So especially, I think, more pressure now with the 7:30 start to want to sort of bowl in the after at 7:30. Bowl first rather than bowl second. But yeah, to answer your question, Virat Kohli started off from a good note. But I'm hearing Chris Lynn is getting a game, and Marcus Jansen as well for Mumbai Indians.
Yeah, we're just going to wait and confirm team news in a minute, but Kohli has won the toss. He's going to have a bowl first. Now, the weight of expectation that tends to be on RCB every year, when you start off a game, Dale, maybe just better off having a bowl first, see how the surface plays. Sanjay makes the point. We don't usually have 7:30 starts in Indian IPL games. That could be a difference this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. Get the boys out in the field, get the shake off any rust that there is, any nerves that's going around, and connect as a team and try and knock over the opposition or bowl as well as you can, and then get out there with the bat, and you've got the nerves out the way. You feel like you've got a feel into the game, and then you leave it up to the batters to try and score the run. So a nice way to get the tournament started, and good for Virat for winning a toss for a change, like you said. I think when I was with RCB last year, he also lost a whole bunch. So there'll be some kind of relief walking into that dressing room too for him.
Is this the year for RCB? It's a question we ask so often, and Dan Vettori knows what that sounds like, being literally staying the center of it all in Bangalore. There's perhaps no franchise that has this sort of expectation or the burden of expectation without having delivered it. You've come close, Dan. You've come close to getting RCB to a title, and the weight just grows more and more, and I guess the expectation and the pressure to some degree also grows every year. Is this their year?
Great question. I think it seems to be the starting question for every IPL is whether RCB can make it past I think, what have they played now? 4 finals. So I appreciate you putting that on me, Raunak. Look, I think it starts with their auction, and I think they have addressed a number of areas, particularly around that all-rounder spot, the 5, 6, 7. I think they'll feel a lot more confident in the balance of their lineup. Maxwell provides that with a little bit of bowling, but I think they'll look to Dan Christian, Cole Jamieson, those sorts of guys. Washington Sundar developing, because we know their top order is pretty strong, and we know that their Indian fast bowling in Chahal is incredibly strong, and with a lot of international experience now as well. So I think they'll feel a lot more confident than they have in previous years, just because of that middle order stability and depth that they have now. And when you look at their team, they look at a strong team 1 to 11.
All right. Now, interestingly, it's that phase of the tournament. It's so early, and there have been so many issues on flying players in that availability was always going to be a bit of a question mark. Quinton de Kock and the rest of the South Africans involved in the series against Pakistan have flown into India not in sufficient time to complete quarantines. So we're just going to wait and see what the team looks like. But like Sanjay says, it does look like caps were handed out a little while back to Chris Lynn and Marco Jansen. Now let's start with Chris Lynn, a day short of what would be Chris Lynn's 31st birthday. He makes an appearance finally for the Mumbai Indians, and after being picked up at base price at the auction a season or so back, and he'll probably do what Quinton de Kock was supposed to do at the top of the order. Just thoughts on that, Dan? Chris Lynn getting a game in the IPL after a significant period of time, warmed the bench for all of last season, and was picked up at base price after KKR let him go a couple of years ago.
Well, I know he'll be ecstatic, because it has been a tough year or so for him sitting on the bench. He's one of those T20 players that expects to play every game and dominate. So for him to have a change in role is very different from him. He's captain of Brisbane. He dominates the BBL, and now he gets an opportunity first up. And I think if you look in previous tournaments, whenever he's got that opportunity early on, he's normally had a performance, and therefore, if he does that here, he can make team selection very difficult for Mumbai. So I expect someone like Chris to come out pretty hard, particularly against a pace attack of RCB, which he'll enjoy facing.
Dale, we've seen this with a lot of international players who take a certain liking to the IPL. The IPL means a lot to them. They're very proud IPL superstars. And when they don't get picked in auctions, when their value goes down, when they're picked up in rounds 2, 3, or in base prices, we try to, make speculations that, how would they have felt? And Chris Gayle seems to have really taken that in a way which he translated into tremendous success when he played for Punjab. Chris Lynn, who was top billing for KKR not long back, is that a real thing? Players that do well in the IPL and then eventually just get their pride hit a little bit, or is that just a reality of how things go?
I mean, it's a bit of both. Your pride does take a pounding when you're on top of the world one day, earning millions, and then the next day, teams are just not interested in you. Other players come flying past, they start to do well, and they start to kind of overlook you. But Chris is a wonderful player, and I know that the teams that will be playing against him, knowing that he's playing, the bowlers will have sleepless nights, knowing that they've got to bowl in the first 6 to somebody like Chris, because he's that baseball kind of player, and he can score really quickly. He's a boundary hitter, and it's the worst thing for a bowler. You just don't want to go for boundaries, and he's that kind of player. So maybe tonight, having that pride of his knocked a little bit, and being the opening game, all eyes are on him, and hopefully he does well.
Mumbai Indians do their work on their auction tables, don't they, Sanjay? Even when they pick Lynn up the auction before last, You felt at base price when they got him, they themselves admitted they were surprised or shocked at getting a Chris Lynn at base price. He waited all season for Quinton de Kock to either be unavailable or injured. That didn't happen. But here's his opportunity.
I guess Mumbai Indians picked him because, Wankhede Stadium, when you look at the pitch there, UAE was a surprise. The venue got shifted after the auctions. It's tailor-made for somebody like Chris Lynn. It's a pitch where there's enough bounce and you can hit through the line, especially when you're batting in the evening. So that was a good pick, and he was always going to be another option to Quinton de Kock. You also had Ishan Kishan as an option. But quickly, I just want to go back to RCB, where you mentioned, how things are going to be. I'm a little disappointed with their performance once again at the auction, because when you look at their three-seamer that they've gone for, apart from Dan Christian, who might turn his arm over, you're looking at somebody like a Mohammad Siraj, Steyn, and a Kyle Jamieson. Not your three ideal T20 bowlers. So one of their main weaknesses or vulnerability that they've had, which has plagued them for all this season, they have failed to address it, even in this IPL in the auction.
All right. We're going to come to the RCB 11 in just a moment, and we'll see what sort of combination they've gone with. Looks like Dan Christian's got the nod as the fourth overseas. You can predict the other three pretty much. But before we go there, let's get Dale to tell us a little more about the 20-year-old Marco Jansen. Picked up a nice price, left-arm seamer, and he gets makes his debut for the Mumbai Indians today. Dale, what do you know about him?
Not a lot, to be honest with you. I've spent a bit of time when we played in the Mzansi League with him. I bumped into him once or twice when we played against each other. But I hear good things. He's tall. He's a very tall guy. Left arm offers something different. I'm always a big fan of left arm quicks. There's not a lot of them around. And it just brings out something different for players. They're not used to facing these guys. The height factor is something different. And just a player that's unknown, not really a player that you can kind of plan for. There's not a lot of him out there. So he could be a bit of an X factor for them tonight. But overall, just a good guy, good performances. And yeah, I'm looking forward to him hopefully putting in a good performance tonight, Shane.
All right. So it looks like he's been given the nod ahead of Nathan Coulter-Nile because Trent Bolt is still playing and Adam Milne hasn't completed his quarantine, we assume. These are all, of course, assumptions, not much clarity from the franchises, but that's where we stand now. They're going to have two left-arm seamers, presumably to start with then, Sanjay, or does Bumrah take the new ball? How do you go when you have Bolt?
I'm a little surprised that they have not gone for Nathan Coulter-Nile. If you remember in the preview, we said Chris Lynn and Nathan Coulter-Nile are the likely guys to be playing. But I guess they just want to introduce this young bowler to IPL and see how he goes. So they've always been fascinated by left arm seam. McClenaghan played for them quite a bit. Mustafizur also has been in their plans. So let's see how he goes. The two left arm seamers is a bit of a surprise. But maybe there's some issue with Nathan Coulter-Nile, who knows. So yeah, so I'm a little surprised that they've gone with the left arm seam.
All right. Right, let's talk about the RCB 11, shall we? We're really overwhelmed by the response, it seems. So everyone's sitting in on our bandwidth. But let's discuss the RCB 11, shall we? Early days of the tournament, we're trying to tease out all these little glitches that we do have. But it's interesting that Devdutt Padikkal, who was, of course, diagnosed with COVID, or rather tested positive for COVID for health concerns, I'm guessing, does not make the 11. There's a game for Rajat Patidar. So that's the domestic player getting a debut. But before that, let's just confirm the overseas players. You've got de Villiers, Maxwell, and Kyle Jameson. You knew would start with the sort of money that was paid for him. And Dan Christian is the other preferred option. So no place for Navdeep Saini. They've gone with Harshal Patel, Mohammad Siraj, and Chahal, of course, is the wrist spinner. So let's get thoughts on that. First up, the Dan Christian gets the nod. Dan, let's go to you for that one. Picked up for decent money, even at this stage of his career. Christian's been around a long time. RCB seem to have put some faith in him.
It's a fascinating middle order for RCB with Dan Christian at 4, Washington Sundar at 6, and they're looking to use probably Kyle Jamieson 7 or 8, depending on their balance. But I think Dan Christian has been brought in for the primary reason that he has been a winner everywhere he's gone, and I think RCB will rely on some of that experience and knowledge, and he fills that gap, that late order hitting to complement de Villiers, Maxwell, and even Sundar. And I think we will see him bowl a little bit as well. He's a fearless bowler. You see him a lot of him in the BBL, bowling around the wicket, slow ball Yorkers. It's a skill that he does have. So I think his experience and his all-round ability is something that will fit nicely into that team. And also he's a leader out there. I think you'll see him running up to Virat Kohli a lot during these games. And a lot of players don't necessarily do that in this lineup. So I think he's the guy that can be who can add a lot of value across the board for RCB.
Interesting choice of the bowling, Sanjay, as we look at it. Siraj preferred over Saini. Shahbaz Ahmed plays to give them an extra spin option. Harshal Patel was traded from the Delhi Capitals. He gets the nod, perhaps for a little bit of batting as well. So they do bat deep, this RCB side.
Yeah, but when you look at the batting lineup that we see on the screen, and that's assuming that Patidar is opening, you've got Maxwell at 4 and Christian at 5, and Washington Sundar, we talk about him as a batsman because of how superbly he batted at the Test level. But this is T20 cricket, where he's been generally a guy who has played the odd cameo for RCB. So the batting at the moment looks a little uncertain. Who knows, what's likely to happen. I like the, selections made within the constraint that they've had. Patidar is a young guy that I've seen, right-hand batsman who hits some, long balls, has an average of 34, striker at 140 at the T20 level. There was a bit of a toss-up between Azharuddin, who's made quite some waves in, the T20 circles of India, versus Patidar, and they've gone for the more reliable, more sort of dependable young batsman. And Saini, paying the price for his performances in Australia and his showings at the international level. So they've gone for somebody like a Harshal Patel, which I like. I like to see seasoned T20 IPL players getting more of a nod rather than these, potentially sort of exceptional bowlers to be, the speedsters that KKR is very fascinated by. Saini also was one of those, young rising fast bowlers, and a lot of franchises like to have a relationship with those. But I'm glad people like Harshal Patel, are getting their due now and prefer over Saini is a telling statement.
Yeah, now Rajat Patidar is a top order batsman in domestic cricket, so you think that's just a stopgap arrangement until Devdutt Padikkal returns. But on the point of Azharuddin Dale, there was an option. There is room for an Indian player there. And could you have gone for a wicket-keeper batsman, Indian keeper batsman? Because what's happened here is AB de Villiers has picked up the gloves, which was the call they made midway last season to give the team better balance. Now, is this an indication from RCB that that's how it's going to be? 38 years young AB de Villiers is going to have to keep wicket for the entire tournament. Thoughts?
Yeah, just being in the dressing room with him last year, he hides it very well. But when he does walk into the dressing room after keeping for 20 overs, his back does take a bit of strain, and he doesn't show it when he bats because he is just a bit of a freak. But I would rather maybe give somebody like Azharuddin have the gloves. I've heard a lot of good things about him. I thought he was going to play tonight, and let AB have the freedom of fielding, maybe sometimes hiding him if you want to. Not that you have to hide him because he's such a wonderful fielder, but just let him have the freedom of having to go out there and bat. Then he doesn't have to worry about much. He's probably not going to have a lot of IPLs left, which is probably another 7. The way that he goes. But I would love to just give him the freedom to just go out there and bat. He's such a wonderful player. Don't need to stress him any more than he already needs. There's enough eyes on him, but he will be keeping, and he'll do a really good job at that anyway.
Okay, now I'd love to pick your brains, Dan and Dale, both of you, Sanjay as well. This is a conversation we have every IPL, right? RCB and their concerns when it comes to their death bowling. If we try and look at that in isolation, normally there's always an overseas experienced seamer to bank on, or at least an overseas seamer to bank on. Chris Morris was there last season. They released him and couldn't get him back at the auction. You've tried to play that role as well for RCB. Now Kyle Jameson's there. If you look at that team in isolation, just as the bowlers, do you think that's still a concern this season? And have they done enough to try and address it?
Bringing in somebody like Kyle Jamieson, just watching the last couple of games that he played for New Zealand, he did take a bit of tap. So like I said the other day, I'd love to see him just have the role of running in there and taking wickets. Don't put him under pressure where he has to bowl at the death. Let him do what he does best. Run and bowl fast, try and take wickets. Maybe use him before the death overs are up. You've got guys like Dan Christian who've done this for a long time. His ego won't take much of a beating if he goes for 20 in the last over. So let the new guy run in and do what he does best. Mohammad Siraj was wonderful at the back end of last year for RCB. I was there with him, and he just seemed to get better and better and better throughout the tournament, and ended up playing for India, having a great test debut. So, hopefully he can lead that attack tonight. And Chahal does what he does best with the ball in his hand when he's spinning in the middle overs. There's not many better than him.
It's a big test for Kyle Jameson. Dan, never played in India, not quite proven in T20 cricket. Does he have the goods?
Well, I think Dale summed it up well. I think you should almost have a team plan that Cole doesn't bowl after the 15th over, because his strength is hitting a length. He has the ability to swing the ball both ways, but he is very inexperienced, and he won't have had an opportunity to work on that death bowling much, and to do it somewhere in like the IPL against the Mumbai Indians. You couldn't ask for a tougher task. So I hope to see him get the new ball, and I hope to see him be used to attack through those middle stages and then hand it over to those experienced performers. I think Harshal Patel can bowl death. His Yorkers and slow ball are generally pretty good. Siraj, as Dale pointed out, he's worked so hard on his death bowling. It's something that he has prided himself on, and I think he's getting better and better. And then Dan Christian. So if Kyle Jamieson stays away from those final 4 overs, I think he can have a really good performance in his debut. If you put him in those last 4 overs, then anything can happen.
Okay, interesting. Sanjay?
Yeah, quick one. Virat Kohli is in a way fortunate that he's got at least 7 bowling options. So it's not like he's got Kyle Jamieson. He paid a lot of money to have him in the team that he has to bowl him 4 overs. So he can actually go right through this whole IPL season looking at which bowler is having a good day. We've got Maxwell, who bowled quite well last year for Punjab Kings. In fact, he was adding more value as an off-spinner rather than a batsman for that team. And they've got Dan Christian, who can roll his arm over, Washington Sundar, got Kyle Jamieson there, Harshal Patel, Mohammad Siraj, Shahbaz Ahmed is also there, Chahal. So he's got plenty of guys who can roll their arm over. So I don't think he should get too dictated by certain bowlers who are going to be his 4 overs bowlers. It could be anyone on that particular day. He doesn't have to bowl Siraj the 4 overs or Harshal Patel the 4 overs, for that matter, Kyle Jamieson. That way, I think he'll extract the best out of the resources that he has.
This noise that keeps coming every year that we contribute to, Dale, on death bowling concerns for RCB. As a bowler who's been part of it, does it ever get through to the team itself? The bowlers knowing that, okay, that's the chit chat outside, that the death bowling is the concern. This is all on us.
I think it does eventually. Like you can't avoid it. Everyone's on social media, whether it be Instagram or Twitter or something like that. You're going to read something about yourself. I know that last year, having to travel long distances between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, the guys would be sitting on their phones reading what people have to say about them, So it is unavoidable. But at the same time, the guys practice really hard at this. And death bowling is a skill that just seems to be getting more difficult. Batters are just, batters that you've never heard of before are playing 360 shots. It used to be 1 or 2 players that could do this. And now, in the auction, you can buy a handful of guys that can do this, or if not more. So death bowling is really difficult. And it's more mindset of, can you handle it mentally rather than just the skill? Can you handle coming back from going for 20 and over the game before and try and do it again the next game? That's the kind of noise that these guys have to get out of their heads.
All right. And as they come into this IPL with what's happened before that, Sanjay, Mohammad Siraj, now he's had a brilliant few months playing for India in Test cricket, brilliant impact in Australia. Can that sort of confidence at the international level, part of a series defining win and whatnot? Can that help going into an IPL, or is it going to be, the same sort of challenges? We can't quite carry that sort of success or form into the IPL.
It's one of the interesting things to look out for in this particular game, and just following this season to see whether the test match confidence that Siraj has got, or Washington Sundar, whether that has a big sort of impact on their T20 performances. My reading of Mohammad Siraj is that I don't think his temperament was ever an issue. I think he's a confident young player. He just didn't have the T20 kind of bowling, or his whole being seemed like which was meant for Test cricket. And when he played the longer format, you could see he was much more comfortable there, not because he was nervous playing T20. Some people are, more in their efforts playing longer format, and that's the reason he had such a slump as well. So we'll have to wait and see whether that translates into T20 success. There's nothing to suggest that Test cricket's success will spill on to T20 success, but we'll have to wait and see whether that happens, because Mohammad Siraj until now has not been, let's be very honest, hasn't been a good white ball bowler in the IPL as well as for India, but has been a fantastic discovery for India in Test cricket.
In your experience, Dan, have you ever had those sort of players that tend to be capped for India, maybe even a different format, and end up being, a higher player or a better version of themselves when they come back to an IPL?
Well, I think there's two opportunities for RCB in what you're talking about, and that's Washington Sundar and Mohammad Siraj. And I don't think we can downplay the fact that the confidence you do take from performing for your country. Everything seems to be a little bit easier once you've been able to do that. So to come to the IPL and bring that confidence with you, and then mix with those overseas players or those Indian stars, I think it can breed something. And I think Mohammad Siraj in particular, the way he bowled in those test matches in Australia, it looked like he'd become an experienced senior pro in a short period of time. So even though his numbers aren't as good as you'd like, Dale could attest to this, is that when you watch him bowl, he hits his Yorker. He has the confidence to change where he wants to bowl his Yorker. He has the confidence to bowl the slow ball. And that's something that you really look forward for in a bowler at the back end of those innings. So I think he is a guy that will take that confidence from Australia along with his skills and produce for RCB this year.
Okay, well, there's the small matter of coming up against perhaps the best team when it comes to finishing things out with the bat, in the form of the Pandyas and Pollard and whatnot. So a challenge that we'd like to see how RCB go with. So we're fast approaching the first ball of IPL 2021. Before we do wrap things up on ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out powered by Intel, it's time to have some fun with our guests. If you followed us through the India-England series, we tend to test the IQ of our guests when it comes to just some key IPL games in the past. Let's see how good Messrs. Manjrekar, Steyn and Vettori were, as this is going to be our very first Intel Fastest Fan First. Okay, so guys, this is pretty simple. We're going to have one fan that's going to ask a question each to each of you, rather. It's 3 questions. One of you can answer all 3. If you know it, just put your hand up, and whoever wins it gets bragging rights for the rest of the tournament on the show. I can't give you anything more because we've already spent all our money paying your fees. Yeah. Anyway, I'm delighted to welcome Manish Sharma for this one. So Manish, why don't you let's hear the first question of today for our panel.
Hey guys, this is Manish, and it is an honor to connect with you guys virtually. And I have 3 very interesting questions for you. My first question is, in last year's final between Delhi and Mumbai, who won the Player of the Match award?
Okay, simple as that. Who was man of the match in last year's IPL final? Whoever puts their hand up first. Now, you know it was between Mumbai and Delhi Capitals. I'm helping you. Right? Well done. We're off to a cracker.
I took the year off last year, Raunak, sorry.
Goodness.
All right.
I covered each and every ball of that IPL.
Sanjay Manjrekar was working
I've got
on
to do
it.
something about the short-term memory loss.
Yeah, this should be Sanjay's question.
Let me give you a hint. It was a Mumbai Indians fast bowler, given they bowled first and they effectively blew Delhi's top order away.
Nathan Coulter 9, was it?
No, it wasn't Nathan Coulter-Nile. There's only one overseas bowler
it
left.
Bumrah?
Just name him. No, it
Trent
wasn't
Bolt.
Bumrah.
Bolt.
Yes, Trent
Trent
Bolt.
Bolt.
Well done, guys. Really, that's awesome. How did you get that? Okay, it was Trent Bolt. Okay, Trent Bolt is right. He had an excellent final for Mumbai Indians, 3 for 30 in his 4 overs. That capped an excellent season. So that was question 1. Let's go to question number 2. See if you guys can do anything.
My second question is, who holds the record for most wickets for Bangalore in the tournament?
On just the IPL, in the history of the IPL, right? Who's got the most wickets for Bangalore? Dale Steyn, come on, you got to know this one.
Was it
It's an
PK?
educated guess. No, not Praveen Kumar. Dan?
Oh, Chahal.
Yeah, that's the answer. That's the answer. Yuzvendra Chahal is the answer I'm looking for.
I had my hand up.
Yes,
For a
yes.
change, I knew the answer. My hand was up, and
Oh,
anyway.
okay. I thought, given your track record, I shouldn't go to you because you would, all you would do is for them.
You were right to do that. You were right to do that.
So Yuzvendra Chahal is the leading wicket taker for RCB in the IPL. There's a chance to add to that tonight. Let's take our final question from Manish.
And my final question is with regards to Mumbai, who have won the tournament 5 times. But can you tell me in which year they won their first trophy?
Okay, which year did MI win their first IPL? If you ask me, it's
First
three
year Ricky
sitter.
Ponting coached.
Terrible with years.
Yeah, what year was that? Anybody?
2000 and Ricky Ponting.
Yes, Sanjay. I didn't hear you. What's the answer, Sanjay?
2013.
Absolutely right. They started this thing of winning it in the odd years. So 2013,
Yeah,
15,
that's right.
between 19.
Oh, there you go.
He was an exception. So there you have it. Big thank you to Manish. And that was part of our Intel Fastest Fan First. And we'll have plenty more of that every day of the tournament. Right. It's time for the first ball. Very quickly. Chris Lynn's already out there. So too Rohit Sharma. I think we'll reserve any comments now until we watch 20 overs of cricket. I don't even know what to ask you. What sort of score shall we expect? What you're going to tell me it's about the pitch. So why don't I give you a bit of a breather? Sanjay Manjrekar, Dan Vettori, Dale Steyn, thank you very much. Dan, fill that coffee up. We will speak in 20 overs on ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by Intel. The IPL's here. Enjoy it. We'll pick up the conversation in 20 overs time.
Thank you.